Assalamu alaikum, I'm Murad,
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Mustafa.
and this is the Eminem Show.
Yes, sir.
So, Netflix has gone ahead and done two major uh, screw ups,
In
for
this
lack of a better
last
term.
in the last
One
week,
week, two screw ups. The first is they canceled Patriot Act.
That made me so sad.
It's I don't know what I'm gonna do Sundays anymore, man.
Bro, they just decided to cancel our boy.
I know it's
Our boy
tough,
Hassan
man.
Minaj, man.
It was a really great show, and it did a great job. A lot of people complain like it just oversimplified stuff. Um, but I think some of the stuff is just very complex things, and it might maybe need to be simplified.
Right, but the thing about it though was that, it condensed these really big issues into a format, in a comedy show, but it also brought, like, sure, it was funny, but then it also, it taught you something. It's educational, right? You
Right.
learned something when you watched it.
And it's in a format that like everyone can digest, because really most of these issues, no one has the time and the bandwidth to be able to,
Right.
fully explore the nuances
Right, yeah.
of these issues, because they are very nuanced, and a lot of them are like massive historical backgrounds.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, and you're not like, sure, maybe it was condensed, but at least, you were able to digest the information just very easily, right? There was like very well done graphics,
Oh man, incredible! Their graphics team, and then the stage.
the screens, bro. I'm so sad. Like, I feel like, bro, he loved his screens, and now he's like, I don't think he ever got to say goodbye to them, and it just makes me so sad.
Yeah. So that's the first one. And then the second one is this movie, Cuties.
Blech.
Which obviously, the main thing that's been discussed, that's obviously been trending all over. And the main thing being discussed is the pedophilia aspect.
Right.
Which I want to come back to later. But one thing that I don't see really discussed anywhere is, like, outside of Islamic circles, is like this Islamophobia,
For sure.
and then this continued pushing of this narrative that Muslim women and girls need to be freed.
Yeah, and that they're like, just, because they're Muslim and they're a woman, that means they're oppressed. Like, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, in so many different like films and shows and stuff, we see that, like, when the Muslim girl takes off her hijab, that means she's free.
Right.
That means she's like suddenly like a better, like, she's living a better life. Like, like that narrative is like, it's super toxic towards Muslim people, and honestly, just, well, we know it's like not true.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many like Muslim women out there that are doing like, incredible things, and like, they wear hijab, right?
And even there's so many who just live normal lives.
Exactly.
It's not, and they live life to the fullest.
Exactly. It's
They have hijab, and they proudly wear it. And like, that's another thing, is like, they never show any women as something they're proud of.
right.
Which I know a lot of people are. Obviously I'm a guy, I can't fully comment, but I know a lot, if not all, people who wear it.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that they're proud of, and it's something that they hold on to.
Right. And yes, of course, there are people that struggle with it. We all have things we struggle with, right? But it doesn't mean, like, I don't feel that it's necessary to portray, like someone just taking it off in every single, like, I don't know. It just doesn't seem right to me.
And then there was that other movie on Apple TV that came out a few months ago, Hala.
Right.
Which gets the exact same thing. It's like, oh, brown girl or Arab girl finds white boy, falls in love, parents are oppressive, but she wants to be free and skateboard or whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
no, the issue, I mean, I didn't watch the movie. I just watched like the trailers, right? But it seemed that she was already skateboarding, right? And that wasn't the issue. But when I read like the synopsis and everything of that movie, and I when I read about the movie, and like when I watched some videos about the movie, it just seemed that whatever, like, and also like from the trailer, like, I feel like Muslim characters in these shows and movies and stuff, they just never actually embody or portray Islamic values,
Mhm.
Like, why is it that they always have to go and do something that's clearly like outside of Islam, like,
yeah.
like you see her, like, like having a white boyfriend, and like they're like they do things in the trailer, you know, like they kiss and stuff.
They're
you know?
romantically involved.
Yeah, they're romantically involved. You know, it's just, I mean that's not us. You know, I mean, maybe it is some people, right? We don't have the issue, but that's not. You know, if you're gonna portray a Muslim person, like at least, you know, they should be, you know, it should show
people of character and moral.
Right. They don't always have to be struggling with, like, I don't know. They don't always have to be struggling. They don't always have to be just breaking all the rules. Like I don't know how else to describe it.
Yeah, and like because like one thing you see is like a religious Christian is very common.
Right.
You know, or like a Christian who can you know, has, you know, is Christian and like, it's not nothing to think about.
Right.
You know, and then in that same way, no one can just be a good Muslim. It always has to be this massive thing of oppression and freedom and you know,
like I just want to see something like about like a normal Muslim, like the, you know, like the one like one like I would see like in my class at school, or like, you know, like how you and me, like I think we consider ourselves like pretty normal Muslim people. You know, I mean, like relatively normal to an extent. You know,
normal's a very difficult term to describe right now.
I guess, like, you know, I mean, because either like in these shows and movies, you know, we see it like Muslims that are only Muslim by name. You know, they don't do anything that otherwise indicates they're Muslim besides like maybe like in one episode or something, or like one instance they say, oh yeah, I'm Muslim, right? But then in other cases, then you have like where a Muslim's shown as like a villain, you know?
Right.
Where they're shown as like, you know, this very just terrible, you know, extremist version of
the terrorists.
Yeah, I mean,
and we can all list tons of shows. You know, 24,
Homeland.
Oh god, it's something that's being pushed, and it's something that I thought we could have moved past.
Right.
Given the amount of backlash that comes out against every single one of these films.
Right. And the problem is, like, look, like maybe, you know, back, you know, like 10, 20 years ago, right? Maybe Islam wasn't as normalized in the media besides the, you know, the whole extremist narrative. But now, like, that Apple TV movie came out very recently, right? And like, yeah, I think it came out like right at the end of 2019.
Right. Okay.
But regardless, like they just had like, they're like, oh look, we're doing representation. Look, this is a Muslim hijabi character. We're like, okay, cool, right? And then you show her like, you know, doing stuff that, you know, just completely goes against Islam and like, you know, what we really stand for.
And like, and it's they try to be all you know, inclusive and radical and whatever, and then you just realize, oh, it's just the same old crap.
Yeah, it's just,
you know, it's just the same old narrative of oppression. And I think that it's a high time we move past this.
Right. Because we're always being shown, like Muslims in media, we're always being shown as like trying to assimilate and run away from like our religion and culture, right? Like that, you know, sure, yes, you know, sometimes cultures, right, they can, you know, or like people's interpretations of cultures can maybe be like way down on people, right? Like parents can maybe be like a little strict on their kids, you know? But those things are not shown as those things aren't the religion, right?
Right.
Those are always cultural things, that like those cultural things where you know, we see that parents are being very strict, or maybe they're imposing a lot of things on the kids. Well, in reality, like Islam's pretty easy, you know? Yeah. There's not like a again, it's just culture, and then that just gets combined. I mean, it's both media and even when we're taught it, sometimes it's just to combine with the religion. And I think that there is maybe we see some, you know, an American-born Muslim, right, who is Muslim, right, you know, not someone who's trying to escape. Yeah, like everyone's just always trying to escape, and just it doesn't look right, you know. It just doesn't feel right.
So with Community, which is a show that we, you know, both you and I love, you have Abin Nadir, who is very much the, I don't want to say token brown kid. And it's mentioned, you know, only a handful of times that he's Muslim, and then outside of that, he's not really Muslim, you know?
Right. Like the issue with him is that, you know, I thought it was cool that, yeah, like I finally found a show like where one of the main characters, you know, is a Muslim dude, right? Like he has a Palestinian and Polish background, I think. It's like where his family's from.
Yeah.
Right. But you know, besides like them just saying that he's Muslim, like he doesn't really exemplify or show anything like really like the like remotely Islamic, you know? I mean, like obviously, you know, people are defined by more than just religion, right? People like have interests and like other things, right? Like Abed's is he's obsessed with like movies and shows and all this other stuff. But even then, he a lot of the things he does just completely goes like almost like against, you know, a lot of things that like Islam stands for. Like for example, you know, we see him that something that's like clearly not allowed in Islam, right? He we see him drinking like on multiple occasions, right? And the issue with that is that, you know, it's shown as something normal for him. It's not really shown as something where, you know, if he's like questioning his morals or anything like that. It's just that, you know,
he drinks.
He just drinks, you know, and it's normal for him. And you know, there's another thing where like we see him like obsessed with like Christmas and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I feel like, you know, I don't know. I don't know like why they had to make the Muslim guy obsessed with Christmas. I just didn't know.
And then not to mention there's like no mention of Eid like
Right.
anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they couldn't even do even that little. And I think that might even be almost worse than the second. Well, it's not worse, but it's a different issue where you're just saying that Muslim doesn't mean anything. At that point,
Right.
what does Islam mean?
Yeah.
You know, if you're not going to follow or even have an issue
Right.
with not following.
It's like, what was the point of calling him Muslim in the first place? I felt
Exactly.
like there's almost no need to do that.
Except for to I don't know, like just make him the token Muslim guy.
Right. Like just to I mean, I don't think I feel like representation is important, obviously, but I don't think misrepresentation like it's not just that like any representation is not good represent like, you know, it's not it
You know,
doesn't
saying
mean
all press is good press. In this case,
exactly
I disagree. I disagree.
It's the opposite, right? Like I know some people will be like, oh well, you know, well at least we got the representation, right? Like yeah, sure, but I think if it's representation, we should have correct representation.
Definitely.
You know?
Can you say, oh, at least? It's like, no, we want more than
like
at
if
least.
you really want a Muslim person to relate to a character, they should exemplify their values.
Definitely.
Right? Like if myself, like, you know, when I was watching the show, I'm like when they first said he's Muslim, I'm like, oh, like, you know, finally, right? But then I see like, oh, well, you know, he doesn't do anything very, you know, Islamic at all. And then there's the whole issue, like, you know, when they kind of maybe talk a little bit about Islam, right? And Abed's background, right? It just shown as like, you know, his dad shows up. His dad is very stereotypically angry, like Arab dude, you know, like it's a huge stereotype that he's just like, you know, this very like commanding and, you know, like very strict type of person, right? And Abed's cousin comes with his dad to like they visit the community college, right? And Abed's cousin just shown like, you know, in a niqab, right? And they make it seem as though it's something like oppressive, like, oh, she's not allowed to go in the bounce house, she's not allowed to do anything, you know, she like barely even talks in the episode, I think.
And then it's like celebrated that like Shirley's kids help her like escape from that. And get to go in the bounce house. And again, it's that same issue with you know, Hala and Cuties is just showing us something that's oppressive and something that's to be escaped from.
Right. And yeah, I think
something that really doesn't have a place in America. When in reality, it's nothing like that.
Yeah, it's not. But that's the narrative that's always been shown. Like I honestly can't think of a single time where like that I've seen, right, where a hijab is shown as like on screen is shown as something like empowering, and
especially not as like a major, maybe in the background or something.
Right.
But never I've seen in like a major hijabi character,
right,
outside of obviously Muslim film.
Mm-hmm. Like for example, there's like I guess if we go back to like the thing about Muslim characters by name, if you look at Legends of Tomorrow, which is on the CW, it's a show like, you know, I enjoy. Well, I did, but you know, it kind of went down in quality. But regardless, right, in the beginning that show was really good.
Mm-hmm.
And in season 3 they introduce a Muslim character, right? The Muslim character's named like Zari Tomaz, and you know, the whole thing in that show is you haven't seen it, but it's a time travel show.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they go to the future where it's like where people are not allowed to practice religion, right? That's like that becomes against the law in the future, apparently, right? It's like a dystopian type of future where they go to. So, you know, like the whole thing is like, why is she running from people, right? Why is she being oppressed in that scenario? Like they're like, oh yeah, she's a Muslim, right? I'm like, oh, whoa, I didn't expect a Muslim in a superhero show, You know, there's a whole show about like with a bunch of superheroes like from DC Comics. I'm like, oh, like, that's actually really cool. You know, we finally got like a Muslim superhero on screen and something as big as the CW, like the Arrowverse, right? You have shows like as big as like Flash and Arrow,
Right.
you know. So I was like, oh, like finally, right? But then but then again, it's a similar situation to Abed where, you know, she's Muslim by name, and then like, you know, she doesn't do anything that's very like that even shows that she's Muslim, like, right? They just use it as a thing where it's like, oh, you know, oh, she was being oppressed because she's Muslim, right, by the government, right? In this case, it's not Islam that was oppressing her,
Yes.
right? But in this case, it was that, you know, the government was like very xenophobic and, you know, like that. But the problem is, you know, once she like joined the team of superheroes and everything, right? She doesn't really do anything that, you know, indicates she's Islamic. Like here and there, they mentioned that, oh yeah, she prayed, like she had to pray or whatever. But even then, you know, she goes and like she starts dating like, you know, some of the other superheroes, and you know, it still didn't feel, you know, like 100% genuine in that sense.
Right.
That was my main issue with it. I feel like, you know, it was an attempt, but it fell short.
Okay. And I think Legend of Tomorrow is a good example of like those shows that, you know, try and then they kind of like fall short a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of like falls in that like controversial category. I think another controversial one is Rami.
Yeah. So what's cool about Rami is that, you know, it's the first time a Muslim won a Golden Globe for Best Actor.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, and Rami Youssef, you know, the guy behind the show, and he's also the main character in the show.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he wrote the show.
Right.
He stars in it. You know, it's a, you know, a lot of work on his part. And you know, it was pretty cool to see like a Muslim person, you know, win Golden Globe for Best Actor, especially for a show about Muslims.
Right.
I thought that was actually very interesting. So his character in the show, you know, I hit the mic. So his character in the show, I'm gonna go back. So his character in the show is named Rami Hassan, right? It has the same first name, and basically this character in the show, we see a Muslim who's struggling with faith, right?
Mm-hmm.
We see him like, you know, struggling to connect to God and to you know, to follow all the, you know, guidelines of Islam, which I thought was a very real
this is a common thing in, you know, an American Muslim. This is a very common American Muslim story where you find like, you know, kind of a clashing of identities.
But the so what was really cool is that, you know, you see him like he doesn't eat pork, he doesn't drink, he doesn't you know, he doesn't do drugs, right? He's very strict on those things, right? But the one place where he you know, that he struggles with is his relations with women, right? Like he you know, he engages in like, you know, romantic relationships with people,
mm-hmm.
right? And that's you know, so that's his character's flaw. So I mean, but the show, you know, aims to show him like coming back from that and like, you know, getting away from that, which is really cool.
And I think it's also very different with Rami because it is a Muslim producing it. Right. And so you're not dealing with so much like the stereotype stuff.
Right.
As like, you know, maybe as in what's another one? Jack Ryan. That's what it's called. Jack Ryan was really interesting for like a bunch of different reasons. Initially it was like very much your standard American versus terrorist type thing.
Mm-hmm.
But they also showed a sort of nuanced view of the whole thing.
Right.
Where first of all, they do have Jack say, you know, these aren't Muslims.
Right. That was
to correct someone.
That was really good.
To correct someone, right?
Yeah, like someone called them Muslims, right? They called the bad guys Muslims, right? But then in the show, Jack Ryan, like, who's played by John Krasinski, you know, he straight up just says, no, those are not Muslims. And I thought that was actually a very, you know, clear.
Is it John?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it's Jim from The Office.
No, I know who he is. That's really?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yes.
I could have sworn it was someone else.
No, you didn't know this?
No. I watched the show. I would have recognized it.
It's Jim from The Office with a beard, bro.
What's this called?
Jack Ryan. You didn't know this was Jim from The Office?
Oh, it is. Never mind. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway.
I know. This was Tom Cruise.
What? Tom Cruise's Mission Impossible.
Yeah, I know.
Not. Okay. Anyway.
Anyways.
Well, that was a a good tangent.
Um.
But yeah, so they basically they say that these people are not Muslim. And I thought that was something very powerful that the show was able to do. Make that distinction, because like sometimes in media, like it paints everything with that same lens, like, oh, like they're Muslim too. Like I thought that it was very good of them to make that distinction, like, no, these bad guys in the movie are not Muslim at all.
And then they also show the radicalization, like why they were radicalized the way they were, which it began at a very young age when I want to say one of their siblings was killed by an American airstrike or something of that sort.
Right.
And then they go to France, where they are constantly abused, profiled by the police, government, etc.
Right.
And it shows what a lot of people tend to go through that eventually leads them to this. Obviously not justifying it anyway, but sort of showing a more nuanced view of it.
Right, just showing a different lens to see it through. Obviously, that stuff obviously should not be condoned ever, right? It's very, it's very unfortunate what happens. And like,
and very un-Islamic.
Yeah, very un-Islamic, and the actions of these people are just, just very wrong. But the way that the show, like, presented it and, obviously made that distinction, like, no, these people are not embodying Islamic values. I thought that was actually, that was just something very, I don't know. I enjoyed that. And then we also see another character in the movie, or in the show, Jim Greer, right? He's like one of the CIA agents or whatever, or he's like the guy in charge.
Right.
He's Muslim.
Right.
I assume he's a revert. But we see him, and we see him like going to the mosque and praying, and we see some positives, and I really enjoyed how it was positive. And if we circle back to like Rami, right, we see over there, we also see some of the positive. We see Muslims praying and fasting in Ramadan and all this stuff. The only issue though that I had with that show was really just how some of the explicit content that was shown, right? I just felt like in a show about Muslims, I didn't think that was very necessary.
But I think that's more an issue with the creator itself than like any Islamic, like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's a very different issue.
Right.
Because like that, first of all, like that kind of explicitness is very popular,
right,
in Hollywood or in Hollywood shows and stuff like that. And it's not necessarily a misrepresentation. And it's also, but I do see where the issue is. Right.
I guess like that's just me personally. Like I wouldn't want. I guess maybe I just don't. I don't know. I wouldn't want that stuff, I guess, associated with.
Right.
Like I guess it's like the first show I see about like where it's like a very real portrayal of Muslims, but then they have to throw in some of the, like, I guess, stuff to like appease Western audiences. To add in like explicit content. So I thought that maybe, I don't know, maybe like in the future we can get like a show where we're not really involved in we don't have to see it, make it more of a PG-13 as opposed to like
an R, NC-17,
right.
But I think, and then with Jack Ryan again, by the end of the day, it is kind of like white guy, brown guy fighting. White guy wins. Yeah. American wins. Which that's kind of like the downside to the whole thing. But they definitely did a lot of due diligence, a lot of research, and they definitely incorporated those things. And the other thing was, like, it didn't feel out of place. Right. It didn't feel like it was put in afterwards. It flowed very nicely with the overall. Yeah. With the show, and so I'm overall I thoroughly enjoyed that, actually.
Yeah, I think that was a good show.
Yeah. And to kind of like bring it back to the whole thing, another controversial, for another different reason, another controversial show, Patriot Act.
I like Patriot Act.
I love Patriot Act.
Patriot Act is good.
Patriot Act is good. They shouldn't have canceled it.
They should not have. That was very bad on Netflix.
But then there was that one clip that Hassan Minhaj told Dua thing. Yeah, I mean, if there was like one negative to the show, it was that segment, right? Where we see a dua being made, right? Which is for those of you listening who don't know, it's it's a supplication. It's a supplication. It's a way of asking God for things, like,
it's a different form of prayer in our religion. And I felt that, like right when the dua started off, he was asking like, for good things, but then he started, I guess, getting into like the part where, he tried to make it a little bit more comedic, right? And I guess that's just the one part where I guess I would say that, that's just the one small part that maybe I didn't enjoy as much.
Yeah.
Right. Because I mean, for us, like dua and prayer and stuff is very sacred, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're not as Muslims, we're not supposed to really like joke around about it as much, So I guess that's just where I'm coming from.
Yeah, yeah. But overall, that was honestly an excellent show.
Right.
Even removing anything Muslim about it,
Mm-hmm.
it was well done, well produced, very informative.
And Hassan Minhaj, honestly, like his storytelling ability is just amazing. His storytelling and his way of conveying information in a way that makes you laugh, right? Like, but then he also is able to convey serious topics in a way that you'll understand the weight of it.
Right. And I think I wish him all the best after this, and I really hope.
Just bring it back, bro. Just make a new season. That's all we
need. I'm excited to see what he does next.
Yeah, Hulu buys the rights to Patriot Act. Just reboots it.
Oh man, I don't want to pay for Hulu too. So now moving on, we want to go ahead and kind of look to the future and kind of discuss, what do we want to see in film with Muslims?
Right.
And I think one project from the MCU that you and I are both like super hyped about is Miss Marvel.
Right.
Pakistani brown girl.
Muslim.
Her dad, she does obviously have like some issues like with her parents.
Right.
At home.
But that's very common in a lot of
that's a common trope with teen movies. Her brother is Tabligh Jamaat, and one of the coolest parts is her best friend is Turkish and hijabi.
That's fun.
Which and she's again a very she's not like the escaping from hijabi. She's normal.
A normal person.
Yeah, finally. Normal person with a hijab on.
Finally. Yeah, it's a very recent character too, though. Like the first comic was in 2013.
Yeah, so it's a new character, and I'm really excited that she is getting a show. I think another really cool thing is that while initially like she doesn't like going to the masjid, the imam becomes sort of a mentor character for her. Okay. Even though like and someone that helps her deal with like her, even though he doesn't know it, that helps her deal with her powers and stuff,
right?
And also just other struggles she's having, including religious struggles, which I thought was like a really cool thing to have in a very mainstream.
Yeah, the thing is, this is like, I hope the people behind Miss Marvel understand the gravity of something like this, right? Like the MCU's like one of, if not the biggest franchises right now, right? Especially like with all the hype last year.
All the DC fans are pissed off now.
No, but it I mean, DC still needs, a little bit of work getting off the,
Yeah.
Like it needs time to grow. You can't rush it.
Their last ever, I think, okay, I'm going to say this. In terms of movies, after the Batman trilogy, after the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy,
right?
DC movies have been okay. Okay, it's been very okay, with the exception of
Aquaman,
and
Shazam.
Okay, Shazam was a stupid movie.
I love Shazam.
It was a great movie.
Right.
It was a great movie. It was stupid.
I mean, but Shazam is a comedic.
Meant to be stupid.
He's a comedic character.
He's a stupid character, but like it's not something that like.
Right.
You don't put it's in a different category.
Okay, but I guess if we kind of want to steer back on track, we can talk about DC another day. But the MCU is one of the biggest franchises, right? Movie franchises out there. It's bigger than Star Wars, right? It's because don't get me started, man. Okay, wait. Let me finish. So the what's it called? The MCU is like it's the biggest franchise, right? There's so much hype around it, especially when Avengers Infinity War and Endgame were coming out. There's so much hype globally. No, I don't remember any other movie that had that much hype behind. I was so excited for both of those. Yeah. And because like they took the time to build it up. Regardless, this is like one of the biggest franchises, and this is the first time we're gonna have an explicitly Muslim character, right? Right off the bat.
Not only a Muslim character, this movie is about the main character is a Muslim character.
Right. Because we've seen in other MCU movies like Iron Man and Black Panther a relatively negative depiction.
I wouldn't say relative. I think completely negative.
Yeah, of Muslims, right? Like it's like to draw specifics, like in Black Panther, right? This is a movie that had a lot of cultural significance, you know, and very empowering, right, for the Black community.
Mm-hmm.
And the issue, though, that I saw with it is that they had to put down another community in that movie.
Right.
They had to put down the Muslim community because right in the beginning of the movie, right, we see you know, all these girls in like the back of like a truck or something, and they've been kidnapped,
Mm-hmm.
right? And Black Panther goes in to save them,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you know, all these girls are there, you know, and they're wearing hijab and stuff, right? And you know, one of the guys who's helping to kidnap. Oh, yeah, one of the guys who's helping to kidnap them. He, you know, they don't say he's Muslim, but he obviously indicates it. He says, you know, phrases like "Wallahi." You know,
right.
That obviously indicate that, oh, you know, this guy is Muslim, right?
Uh-huh. And they're also wearing hijab, so you know that they're
right. And then, but anyway, so then after Black Panther saves them, right? Black Panther and like, you know, his friends or whatever, they when they save, you know, those girls from being kidnapped, right? They all take off their scars,
right?
They take off their
something that the kidnappers
going back
put
to that
on.
whole thing where it's like, why, you know, they all have to escape. They're being imprisoned by a hijab.
Right. And not even that, but like it was so unnecessary.
It's very unnecessary.
Like if you had just made them just like normal kidnappers,
right,
and just put them in there either with a hijab and they didn't take it off, like why couldn't they wear hijab by choice and they were just kidnapped?
Right.
And it wouldn't have detracted from the movie
at all
in any sense.
Exactly.
You know, and this is something that might seem minor, but you don't let minor Islamophobia just pass. You don't let mild racism pass.
Right.
You know, because that's just how it builds up. It's a subconscious build up.
Exactly. Like in all of these movies that we've seen, you know, it's some of them are very subtle, right? Like, and then some of them are very explicit, like where it's negative. But I hope the MCU writers and the people behind Ms. Marvel, they realize the gravity of, you know, the potential that this show has.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is the first time Muslims are going to be represented in a franchise as big as the MCU, like I mentioned before.
Right.
This is the first time, you know, like little girls, you know, are going to see someone who's like them, right? A brown girl, a Muslim girl, right? On screen. So what I'm saying is that they cannot mess this up.
No.
I really hope, like I don't want to see Ms. Marvel engaging in things that are, you know, anti-Islamic, right? I don't want to see her breaking the rules or
especially not like nilly-willy, like not without a moral
conundrum.
Yeah, conundrum. It's one thing if it's something that bothers them, which I think is
that
very realistic.
where they're struggling with. That's fine.
That's one thing, okay? But like when they just do it, like when it's just a part of their life,
right. And it's not like, you know, it's nothing, you know, it's not something that seems significant to them, right? Where they just if they just started drinking or if they just started like, you know, dating someone, it's not like I mean, that happens, right, in our communities, but that doesn't mean that, you know,
that has to be the portrayal of every single Muslim.
Exactly. I want to see that, you know, Ms. Marvel's someone that, you know, Muslim girls can look up to, right? And Muslim guys too. You know, I want to see them like be able to look up to this Muslim character, right? That represents their values and who they are and who like how they grow up. You know, because like little kids are gonna start watching this. You know, like this is like, and you know, eventually she's gonna probably start showing up in the movies after her show on Disney Plus, right? She's gonna be in the movies alongside all these, you know, big names like Spider-Man, whoever's left, Thor, Hulk.
I cannot wait for that.
Right?
Like when that happens, inshallah, I am looking forward to that.
Right, because I mean, Disney's plan right now with the MCU is to, I guess, introduce some heroes on the Disney Plus platform, but then they've indicated that they really want to move them into the movie space.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find a sort of a release date. Here we go.
I think it's like 2022, something like that. It's in the few years, and I assume it's probably been delayed because of Corona.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of shows and movies have been delayed because of Corona. It's kind of unfortunate.
So no actual date.
Yeah, they didn't indicate any release dates on a lot of them. I mean, I think Winter Soldier and Falcon, that show was supposed to come out pretty soon.
So like right now there's a bunch of shows coming out 2020, 21. So it's most likely probably gonna be 2022, like you said.
Yeah.
I genuinely cannot wait.
Right.
And I'm really hoping they don't mess that up.
I really hope they don't. It's like, oof.
And I think like on a broader scale, I hope that we start seeing more positive representation.
Right.
And I actually, there's a great organization for any of y'all that want to look into this more. United UPF, United Production Films, something like that. United Production Foundation, something of that sort. UPF. They're a great company. They're a great organization which basically. My bad. They're a good organization with worked with these major studios to do consulting about Muslim characters and stuff.
Right.
And so I really hope that we start to see, and they've worked with like major organizations.
Mm-hmm.
I know they've worked with like on The Simpsons, and a lot of different things, and this is all available on their website. But I really hope that we start to see more positive Muslim representation.
For sure.
It's really high time we move past this.
Right. Because
it was never acceptable, and especially now in a time where we're becoming more conscious
mm-hmm.
of how things affect people. I think that this has no place in it. If Islamophobia is not being included in this conversation, there's something seriously wrong. Islamophobia has never had any place, but especially now has no place in film and in society.
Yeah, exactly. Like they just need to, maybe even though that this stuff was happening in movies before and it's already happened, I feel like a lot of steps have been made in the right direction,
mm-hmm.
right? But we just need now we just need a leap in the right direction,
Right.
We've had a couple like baby steps, with some of the positive shows that we talked about, but now we just, we need them to bring it home with Miss Marvel and beyond that.
Yes, that's going to be revolutionary and massive if they pull it off right.
Right. Because, I mean, look, it's the biggest franchise. Finally, a Muslim headliner of the biggest franchise. I want to see them do it right. But, with that, inshallah,
that concludes our first full episode.
Yes,
we
sir.
hope you guys enjoyed. We guys hope you guys benefited, and I want to go ahead and encourage all of you guys. What are your thoughts of like current state of Muslim media, and like where would you like to see Muslim representation go?
Right.
With all that, any mistakes I've made are mine, and I hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives me, and anything good is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Right. Yeah. We ask that Allah forgives both of us for any mistakes we made in anything we said. Or, if anything was non-correct, inshallah, we ask that we be forgiven for that. I mean,
with that concludes our first episode.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for watching. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Hope to see you in the next one.